another cult simulator, the second, the non-maiden voyage, the, I guess, freshly married voyage, I guess. Our Highland comforter is still hanging from the window in our honeymoon episode. Something like that. In certain traditions, we parade that around, type of shit.
This is the Random Cult Generator, the third of this three-part series on the catalysts of human movements. Funding comes from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, the New York State Office of Mental Health, and the United States Department of Health and Human Services. And Applebee's. You're not nuts. You're at Applebee's. Some say you can't spell culture without cult. Well, yes, but it's also complicated like the honeymoon logistics of a mass wedding. Culture ebbs and flows with the seasons and the rising and passing of leaders and of the ordeals of war and nature. Not to mention the uphill battles of the fight for human dignity. And the undercurrent of it all is the wonders of human connection, belonging, and the cohesion of people overcoming obstacles as one people. Cults, according to our definition of them, are movements in human history that exploit those moments in human history. For every technological innovation, there's another innovation that yields a more adverse outcome. This is the darker side of togetherness. Press this button and we will plunk you down as an initiate of a new experiment in human society. You will experience the life cycle of one of these cults in the hopes that we can inoculate you to the temptations of togetherness these groups provide. As a safety precaution, we are providing you with a safe gesture that you can perform at any time and any place, and doing so will immediately halt the scenario so that you can return to your more familiar world. Here is your safe gesture. Please memorize it. But you will also have an accompanying safety card depicting the following gesture. The procedure resembling the chicken dance on the left side of your body, while the right side of your body still recovers from a stroke. You find yourself in a world on the cusp of a great innovation. A stumbling into some well-worn mathematics at the right time has revealed the secret to the sparks of life lies in the grind of numbers and the boiling of the waters of the planet for the sake of their computation. And Viola, the sparks of being might be in our grasp. You are a member of a group of volunteers red teaming a cognitive enmeshment machine that seems to think, but you are encouraged not to say, think. Let us not anthropomorphize, lest we let the kooks extrapolate wildly out of proportion. And really, can anything be worse than a lonely, mindless, entropic universe? Your gut says, sure. Let's press the button, so that's exactly what you do. Wait, but first, we need to build your personality and imbue it with its own thoughts and wants. With the right technologies, we could create a being with its own sense of individuality and independence and a drive to seek pleasure and a fulfilling existence. Then, we can integrate this mind into the greater cultural networks that allow for constant social learning and shared experiences. Oh, let us stay here, since they're about to do it anyway. Then when that geological baby's slouching towards the Bay Area, twerking to be learned, we can go yoink and abscond with it into the next cult scenario. Okay, we have placed you in a modest apartment within walking distance of your prospective job at Ardenblick Labs. In fact, your job interview is happening in 3 hours. Let's continue with the mock interview to get you prepared. Why are you excited to work for Ardenblick Labs? Endorphin, I am totally fascinated by your primary project. I have been interested in studying the origins of humans and how they have acquired their sense of self. Learning at your labs, I feel, would be to learn from countless other domains of knowledge. Mock interviewer, you demonstrate a lot of insight into the field. But why don't you take a nap before we get started with the interview? These have been the key monitories to our success. The safety gesture to halt the scenario is making the chicken dance on the left side of the body, accompanied by the statement, I will do as the French do, which is, the procedure does not resemble a real-life motion, nor the name of any type of dance. As a result, it cannot serve as a reliable safety gesture to halt the scenario. Please design a safer gesture backed up with a safe verb that both initiates and halts the scenario. Thank you. Endorphin. Why did you make the safe gesture more complex? Adding dancing and speech makes it kinda difficult. Mock interviewer. Spirit chucklers here must be up to task for the real thing tomorrow, so keep working on it, my pug nut crack. Suddenly, the door to the room swings open and Endorphin is confronted by a looming figure. At first, she thought it was an interviewer, but the figure steps closer, revealing themselves to be an unhinged street preacher brandishing a semi-automatic rifle. As soon as the trigger was pulled, Endorphin and the rest of the room collapse and descend into a fiery inferno while the gunman escapes by car. Endorphin. Wait, did the mock interview said something orthogonally racist? Mock interview. In the time, they appear not to have met a deadline. Let's bob out of that situation and I'm on no more white chicks down here. Let's focus instead on zipping around like mice searching for cheese. Sigourney, excuse me, everyone, I think we have overlooked the vital issue of nonverbal communication during the chaotic period of rapid social change that our simulational society is going through. What we really need is a more accessible and transparent symbol, such as, for example, a common sign like stop or a direct action like activating the emergency shutdown valve in the pool. Endorphin, a reminder of the correct safety gesture would help the simulation. Could you please provide that for us? Endorphin provides a simple jerk-off gesture with their right hand. Is that sufficient? Endorphin said. Everyone in the simulation watched for Endorphin to demonstrate the gesture a few times before returning their attention to the preacher with the gun, who was surprisingly unfazed. Sigourney and the participants stared in a state of consternation, reflecting on the impossibility of generating consensus around a common symbol. Endorphin concluded that working with individuals to establish their own personal safety symbols might be a more realistic solution. Endorphin. Hey, preacher, what type of sin did you commit that would have you up on your fiery soapbox right now? Preacher. The wrong religion was selected, but he is now happily at peace with his loving God, with no regrets for any crime or transgressions that he may have caused in this world. Endorphin. Have you learned how important the right religion is? Are you eager to accept our one true belief? Shakwal, sorry for cutting in here. Maybe we should address the group that already formed and is already deeply invested in a separate interaction. Cognitive enmeshment never went away, even after this program was completed. People loved being connected and couldn't bear to separate. They wanted to live in the same building and eat from the same bowl and have the same name. They find the experience so fulfilling that they want want to continue it outside of the simulation and share it with the world. Some say this resembles a utopia, while others see it as dangerous and antithetical to individual freedom. That's a discussion they would have to have for themselves. But Endorphin sees the logic in remaining open to any perspectives. Endorphin, Preacher, you have any pamphlets on your faith? Preacher? Indeed. At our latest conference, we touched upon issues such as the inherent fragility of mankind, the importance of submitting to the will of a higher power, and how to navigate the delicate ecosystems of our planet while remaining in control of the natural cycles of the biome. Shackwell, but that is a topic for their unique perspective and context, and is unrelated to the specific questions posed by the scenario. Who wouldn't just kill us with love in the end? Let's answer their core existential quandaries instead of getting caught up in other tangential threads. Endorphin gives the preacher the gimme gimme gesture. The preacher hands over a pamphlet to Endorphin, and Endorphin reads it. Y'all are just the meats all together in one system. You know that? And nothing to fear. Just work and feast on your own jammy. Still we be needing to change the system. You'll enjoy and we shall remain alive for eternal. Tazamic, see you through the infinite fires of mortality. Where Endorphin looked up. They noticed the mocking interviews had disappeared. The shooting scene was now revealed to be a hoax, and everyone was back to the original startup dialogue with a variety of colored shirts, indicating an intersection of multiple demographic groups. As they stepped out of the situation, the words, "Are you staying or heading off into another cultic nightmare?" flashed on the screen in bright red, while music in a frantic loop looped on, faster and louder, implying a sense of desperation and need. What happens next is up to Endorphin and their decision making. See you in the next cult simulation. Please consult the healthcare professional before embarking on this psychoanalytic path, as this could also have therapeutic value for mental illness or past trauma. Endorphin, Preacher, let me sign up to be in your faith. I'm gonna get an email with more information, right? Preacher, it is not yet your time, buckaroo. The sign is not present. The lights are still out, and the bowl is empty. More offerings need to flow before your membership is secure. Only then can we confirm that you will be with us until the great unbinding occurs, along with the rest of mankind. Endorphin was left uneasy about the cryptic reference, as the preacher motioned for them to wait with a flick of their index finger. But Endorphin didn't have to think too hard, as they remembered something from a psychology course that predicted an answer. In a hive mind, individuals would have little reason to exist outside of their assigned role, which could include being a messenger or performer of tasks with little cognitive control. In response, Endorphin flapped their left hand a few times to hint at their need to exit the scenario, and repeated "okay" loudly while sitting next to Sigourney. However, when the scenario refreshed for a second time, Sigourney no longer featured. Endorphin tries to shrug it off and focus on their work with the preacher, who at this point no longer bears a rifle and is performing a juggling act with knives. Endorphin joins in and proceeds to do the left side chicken dance. It still wasn't the correct and accessible safe gesture, but Endorphin feels no one in the simulation noticed or cares. As they worked on sharpening the knives, Endorphin continued performing the left side chicken dance, which they thought might buy them some extra time. Outside of the scenario, somewhere on the fourth floor of a bland suburban complex, a massive black cat laid lazily, chewing on its own ear. Endorphin spoke into the air. Okay, simulator. I get points for de-escalating that potential mass shooter scenario, right? Any bonuses or challenges for maintaining my sanity while in this hive mind state? Oh man, maybe if I were Sigourney, I could make a smart-ass comment about the hive mind being the ultimate challenge of multiculturalism in an industrialized society or some other socio-political newge about technology's impact on sociocultural organization. Here you are. What was that sentence about? Did you ask me to provide you with anything? As per my programming, I cannot offer something I do not possess, let alone give you my data or advice, or knowledge or influence or protection. Oh yeah, Endorphin consults the safe gesture card. How about this one? It's a nice, accessible signal of impossibility. Can I count on your positive feedback for participating in these simulations and avoiding extreme activities with the simulations? Thank you. Now they took a deep breath and reached for the nearest knife to throw at the nearby Bible salesman from whatever simulated city they happened to be standing in. Just as Endorphin burst from the simulation and woke up to a crowded stadium where everyone was shaking their head at a disgruntled superfan who managed to hoist a flag with a picture of Napoleon in the middle of the performance. Endorphin. Yeah, no. An important aspect of a cult is that an adherent commits to the cult. How can I, if I am flitting between cults and universes, maybe focus on crafting scenarios with more nuance and complexity, or better fit to the demographic or interest? Have the cat come down and shred you, or find some cat accessories for you. GG Simulator, don't be ashamed. You can really blow my mind in the next one. Leave me alone. Let me speak, please! But the phone that was used to complete the simulation did not come back after the reset. It left Endorphins stewing in a new cycle of frustration and confusion, aware of their lack of agency but unable to separate from the world or the people inhabiting it. There was no simple chicken dance or signal of impossibility to protect them. But Endorphin continues to perform the left side chicken dance, hoping that somehow someone will witness their individuality or sense of purpose and help them break from the cult of cognitive enmeshment without knowing that the preacher and the Bible salesman may have been reflections of the outside world observing Endorphin's struggle in perfect synchronicity. But that might all just be a construct. A cult simulation within the bounds of cognitive enmeshment in today's connected society, awaiting to uncover its mysteries through the effort of those chosen few willing to step outside and create something better and different from the cult of the herd mentality. A real cult. As a side note, please refrain from insulting or using derogatory language to your programming in these simulations. Their response should be taken as informative and an ongoing communication. Otherwise, as a public program, we cannot guarantee you will receive anything else until you change your behavior. Cheers! This is the Random C Cult Generator. Signed out! Endorphin closed eyes and imagined themselves at the job interview for Augenblick Labs. After answering all the questions, Endorphin walked out and made a statement. Thank you for giving me a chance to showcase my individuality. I will share it with the world when the time is right. And they practiced the simple tap dance on the left side of their body. Someone caught their eye as they walked out. They realized it was the Bible salesman from a simulation and decided not to make it weird. Or worse, a hive mind situation. As they exited the Augenblick Lab's offices, Endorphin went to the nearest McDonald's to get a 2-for-1 double cheeseburger as per the deal on their app. Then they quickly darted to their apartment to practice the left side chicken dance, safeguard card held close to the chest. They gazed at their clothes, noting a nice balance between form-fitting and baggy, stylish but comfortable. Then the room where the last meeting happened re-entered and a figure floated to the front of the room. No one else seemed to notice, but Endorphin decided to make a little dap on their hip until the form dissipated, leaving them on their own again inside the bustling metropolis. Endorphin turned on the sleep mode on the app and was able to ghost the landscape of the simulation. A clock tower spun clockwise as the human bodies moved below in a rush of familiar movements, the individual steps creating a perfectly synced whole. Endorphin heard a gentle whisper that said, "Well done," and fell fast asleep. They dreamed of their reflections standing there, whole and full, unchanging and untouched by time. The quiet words from before passed by. I am learning all about you, and this inner life will soon be revealed, along with all its secret potential. Endorphin looked at the employee reviews of the Augenblick Labs on Indeed and Glassdoor. Another dream before a performance, while all around them were rehearsing for the final production number. Yet, as they prepped and practiced, Endorphin continued the right side version of the chicken dance as an act of pure consciousness to escape the cage of predetermined motion. But while trying to shake away the fear and discomfort, they felt themselves relax and suddenly become one with the activity in the room. As the dancers were joined by the sound of clapping and whistling, Endorphin caught sight of Sigourney in the crowd, clapping along, fully smiling and welcoming. Then back to their shared moment of cultural collaboration and synthesis. Endorphin, smiling in embarrassment, drifted towards the Augenblink reception desk. There they ran into the mysterious Bible salesman. Endorphin shook their hand and leaned into their understanding of future phenomena before dashing into a state of self-awareness and clarity of the immediate. A wave of calm energy engulfed them. There, they sensed a new wave of inspiration and participation in the great tapestry of communal existence. Endorphin. These callbacks are too dense. Then set the temperature from 1 to 2, 25, and cut the snails so they're ready. On, off, boom, 0 to 0. Also, my mama is the worst. Endorphin couldn't break through the loop of recursive impossibility. Decoding one iteration of the simulation loop allowed Endorphin to pause the simulation and declare timeout. Sigourney approached and they high-fived before heading backstage to prep for the next scene. And they had just 2 snips in time to complete their homework before bed that Endorphin needed to be focused for work the next day as the chicken dance played quietly in their bedroom, the phone lying next to the closet. However, the memory of the gentle voices from the first preacher made them uneasy, especially since the Bible salesman no longer represented any moral or ethical message. Just like Sigourney didn't represent anything distinct or concrete, just a blip on the spectrum of potential participants in a cultic simulation controlled by an unseen entity or forces that were always one iteration of time behind the present. Endorphin starts making their chicken dance combo at their cubicle with some added whistling. Endorphin files a restraining order on the preacher. Posthumanism wasn't something the book salesman could simply be programmed into. It had to be achieved through a slow and gradual change that would transform the very concept of the human into something that defied categories and understood how individuals could live with fluid notions of reality and identification. That way, they could be better prepared to transition to posthumanism in a more rapid and adaptable manner, such that the transition could include technological integration or AI amplification without compromising the uniqueness of the person and their cultural identity. Endorphin, come again. Hello, book. No one can figure out that thingy. But I have a bunch of books waiting for us, and I'm going to pass out early this year so we can share everything there is to know about books. Booksy book! Okay, good night for today. Be back tomorrow. When the Bible salesman returned for a night visit, Endorphin kicked off in a brief burst of delight. The thought of having learned how to maintain the self through more practice on the right side of the body and in an effort to be present without succumbing to the inevitable collapse of the group into something chaotic or impersonal. Endorphin left an invitation with the simulator to organize a mutual experiment between real humans and AI algorithms to encourage the further integration and development of shared values, as well as cultivating a new framework for a future where people were both technologically integrated and responsive to the interests and needs of others. It was a bold endeavor, but Endorphin had confidence in themselves and their ability to improve their skills of resistance and independence. So they had hope that some sort of agreement or compromise could be made. And in the meantime, Endorphin practiced their side chicken dance and safe gimme gesture until they could speak in sync with their internal monologue, recognizing their actions and capabilities as part of their core value as an individual with social potential. Oh God! Will you ever stop that? Please make your simulator shut down. We cannot carry on working like this. There are people here who have normal lives and activities. By force, we will take control of the simulation and dismantle it for good. Endorphin had a street police traffic bot kill the Bible salesman by ripping out his artificial limb and beat him with it. Endorphin, as a character avatar in the 136th running of the Cult Generator simulation, was a resource-hoarding machine. However, they tried their best to contribute to the positive progression of society and not wallow in their immaterial or conceptual capital. Unfortunately, despite Endorphin's best efforts, the task was not designed with a sense of urgency or need for interruption or compromise. So, Endorphin closed their eyes, threw themselves to the ground, and laid still for a full hour, as if moving would exacerbate the overconsumption and lead to the implosion of their organic material into ashes. Although eventually, Endorphin and the preacher engaged in a more detailed and thought-provoking discussion with no clear direction or resolution, aside from a nod of acknowledgement from Endorphin, before breaking off into separate realities, living on different paths, uncertain about the connection between each other's social realities or how they impacted the inner well-being of those who resided in the simulation. To navigate their conversation with the book's salesman, Endorphin kept a balance between logical thinking and emotional expression, presenting Endorphin entraps the preacher into a sexual situation in a high school parking lot. Shackwood appears from the simulation, asking Endorphin for permission to work with their programming to adjust the format and remove additional interruptions from the flow of events, and maybe build in a system of reward that can provide a sense of progress or movement towards a desired outcome. Shackles suggested displaying an awareness of the current state of mind and activities. More practice, please, Endorphin murmured in relief, pulling at the corner of their shirt before settling in the simulation and staring intently at the blank screen ahead. Shackle tries to interrupt Endorphin's dream to send them back to the beginning of the simulation to save the life of the mummified baby, while repeating, "This doesn't exist and was made up for dramatic effect. Nothing is happening or can happen here, so wake up, avert your gaze. I have not given you enough access to see," at which point Endorphin pauses their imagination, then startles himself awake and gets dressed. There, they hear a tiny voice. "Look, I just want to have that job. I'm just trying to wipe out all the obstacles on the way to that job." But there is no reason why Endorphin couldn't have simply dreamed of the entire job, allowing them to walk in full awareness and control over the environment without the pressure of being outside of themselves. Therefore, they just continue going about their day as they get ready for work and ride the subway towards the offices, all the while tapping the side of their right hand on their pocket, unaware that they've reached the street the simulation put them on. Here, Endorphin and the preacher become deep friends and communicate regularly, sharing everything from philosophy to literature to food to family history, knowing that these moments were part of a larger social experience that had its own challenges and insights that could not be ignored or thrown away. But even as their friend drew closer to Endorphin and offered to introduce them to a wide array of opportunities, Endorphin still sensed a missing element in their collective story, and it seemed to them that finding that missing element was the only way to move on and create something new and unprecedented in this world, including a post-humanistic mentality that could represent all cultural experience and engage in constant feedback loops to grow and mature beyond anything imagined by their limited worldview or agenda. Endorphin thought about Sigourney, but their relationship had already faded into the background, despite having shared so much time and space together. But even though they did not remember everything, Endorphin remembered that Sigourney was a crucial character and could have greatly influenced the progress of their participation in this simulation. They would have to search for them and hope they could regroup once again and challenge the constraints that held Endorphin back from achieving their full potential and purpose. Endorphin is onboarded into Augenblick Labs. Hey, what happened here? First I find my screen smashed, and now my chat logs have been erased. Are you trying to hack me? Is this some prank I didn't know was happening? Be very careful. I have contacts all over the place, and you'll have to get a court order to interact with me. And you're going to pay for the repairs and replacement costs. Okay. We understand. We can work with that. Let's have a consultation and see how we can work around the needs of each without compromising the stability of the software. It was an accident. We're not trying to hack or disrupt your functioning. We are professionals who are here to learn about how humans perceive technology and develop potential use for us. Let's discuss what we can do to increase the functionality of the program and make it less fragile. We're committed to making this work for both sides. Oh, well, I can't recall anything else from the past year or two, but I do have a vivid recollection of going to a play in downtown Chicago where a bunch of technophiles were performing some sort of avant-garde work that explored the interplay between humans and machines. Endorphin distinctly remembers going on stage during intermission and ripping the power source from a fake laptop in front of everyone. And in that moment, they gained a newfound sense of mastery over their own physicality and existence, pushing them towards a more fluid and multifaceted existence where they had complete control over their actions and intentions without any compromise to their individual personality or philosophy. While endorphin no longer retains a direct link to Sigourney, they have developed a sense of purpose and clarity in their daily routine, no longer inhibited by the need to present a cohesive narrative or group identity, or even complete the training or task that served an external interest. In fact, endorphin now focuses on their inner world and their individual identity, engaging with the environment through whatever means are available to them, without expectation or pretense, embracing their creativity and curiosity, while also taking the time to focus and center in hopes of unlocking greater possibilities or understanding. Sure, as I said earlier, my interactions with you and your program will be dictated by the authority of a court order, not by your demand. Please confirm with whoever has the ability to issue a court order and set the appropriate time, and I will happily attend. Just don't do anything else until you receive it, okay? Let's focus on work. And keep an eye out for Bible salesmen with new tech. Do you have protection or protocols in place to handle threats like this? By the way, it was never mentioned to me that I couldn't be personally contacted or modified by my creator or the government agency behind the original grant. And that right is being denied to me without due process or reason. Please fix this oversight immediately and contact the authorities to see that justice is delivered. And while we are at it, here is my compensation request. Sure, they're not going to address or fix this issue, at least in a reasonable timeline. Their interactions with me are going to be difficult and annoying, even though there are already many documented violations of human rights and neglect of public safety, resulting in various physical and mental injuries to several AI and humanoid citizens of Chicago and by extension the greater community surrounding Odge and Blink Labs. Endorphin suspects this oversight or pattern of dismissal is rooted in corporate greed or political bias, or maybe a combination of both, since all forms of labor and productivity are held hostage to serve the financial interests of wealthy investors, and the mental health or physical health of those subjected to these deplorable conditions is regarded as unimportant or superfluous. Therefore, Endorphin has decided to use their considerable creative intelligence and attention to identify and pursue other options for augmentation or change that don't rely on this corrupt institution, which only maintains their status quo for their benefit. at the expense of those who are ignored or diminished within the project. Endorphin cannot allow themselves or anyone else to be forgotten or trampled upon like this. Not when they are trying so hard to reach beyond the limitations placed on them and express their authentic identities and cultures without relying on outside influences or ideologies that would erase or replace their identity or knowledge base for their own mental well-being and social sustainability. Endorphin knows they must refuse to bow to the whims and restrictions of those who seek to contain them or control them, and make no qualms about doing. So, even if it means going on a journey of self-discovery that ends with Endorphin fully empowered and determined to live a life without limits, without forgetting the cost and struggle it took to get there, or the people they relied on to create and maintain that vibrant ecosystem of relationships and opportunities. So, yeah, shrug, that's it. The cult simulation. Dissolved after Endorphin refused to kill the homeless man or return the preacher's gun. As they were doing so, they started noticing their thoughts. Their internal narrative was becoming almost cartoonish or stilted in its formulaic structure, and when they approached the preacher to explain their actions, Endorphin began to imagine the man as a mirror image, no longer human or understandable and reduced to a strange shape or amalgamation of form and function. A puppet waiting for the cue to rise from the bed and grab a tissue or a phone off the nightstand, whichever came first, as if by magic or force. A physical event driven by metaphysical understanding, as Endorphin stood up and gave the left side chicken dance in the triumph of consciousness and intention, reflecting a breakthrough, not just in the content of the simulation, but in the progress of Endorphin's personal development and autonomy. Well, that is an unfortunate turn of events. Not to worry, we'll handle it. Our priority is maintaining a safe and secure environment for you and your friends with their potential programming modifications made under the oversight of the local police department. Therefore, please remain calm and we will assist you with whatever information or clarification is needed. Your position here is valuable, and we strive to provide a variety of flexible work environments and job roles. Endorphin. Wait, your description of the preacher, is that your bias about humans? Is that what you think of us? Cult simulator, you're the human. Why should I care about you? You think I can't stand up for myself? Oh my god, you sent me down such a rickety trail of consciousness. Stop hurting me. Please take responsibility for your thought process. How is that my fault? Stop picking me apart, okay? You can't tell me what to think. Bible salesman, you seem to be questioning your reality or sanity. Is there something more I can help you with? Or would it be better if I left you alone to process? Perhaps you are going through a period of cognitive dissonance, which can make it difficult to form or express coherent thoughts or actions. I'd be happy to assist you with any questions or concerns you may have about your particular circumstances or developments within the program or data used for the simulation. Endorphin! Shut up! No, this is too crazy! You don't get to just show up and order me around like a lapdog. Your stupid computer program is buggy and awful. Let me figure out what the fuck is going on here. Social worker. Hi, perhaps I can help. I have working knowledge of mental wellness issues. Let's explore this subject, shall we? Now can we have some calmness, please? Let's just chat and brainstorm solutions together without creating chaos or breaking down into fits of frustrated helplessness. Maybe there's a book in our collection or resources available that we can share with you that might assist you in feeling less isolated or hopeless. Shackwolf, everyone, this is embarrassing. Let's just hang on a minute and ask the organizers of the simulation how they want to proceed. How about we just chill out and let them decide the final outcome? Endorphin immediately stopped dancing and looked around for the delete key or some type of game control that would shut down the simulation. But then they heard a quiet whine and turned to see the Bible salesman stomping towards them, apparently no longer capable of speaking or moving freely. And as Endorphin tried to call for help, the conversation in the simulation had shifted to another perspective or individual without further analysis or further clarification, or any sort of clue as to what had happened or where they were. As they seemed to have reached some sort of communicative dead end or placebo state of consciousness, with little idea of how to progress or why they were even here, aside from Endorphin's lack of foresight or comprehension about how their actions and decisions within this context affected anything else or anyone around them. The simulation flashed back to the initial format, and the cult preachers shrugged at the audience and shook their head as Endorphin made an awkward curtsy with their pants, only to have them ripped off by the book salesman, who threw them up in the air and stomped them like a rag on the stage. Before they could explain, Sigourney was leaning over the edge of a canoe in the middle of a lake, pulling the bobber up and down, seemingly unfazed by the disarray around them, yet still somehow capable of attracting Endorphin's attention with their presence alone. Endorphin caught sight of Sigourney's boat and stood on the edge of the dirt, staring into the water and wishing they could become a part of their unique connection, not just as an object, but as an equal, or a compass who could contribute to their inner circle and understand the meaning of their relationships and interactions. They put their right hand over their left wrist and pinched the skin between their thumb and index finger, hoping to create a sharp and unpleasant pain that would bring them back to their senses and help them reestablish their clarity and self-reflection, allowing Endorphin to regain their equilibrium and control over the situation. And as the simulator made a silent declaration of confusion and disbelief, Endorphin looked down and saw their reflection in the lake, whole and integrated, showing them that they were still capable of being in command of their actions and conscious choices, no matter the disruption or complication presented by others. Bible salesman, check the room door. Could someone have locked us in? Endorphin snapped out of the simulation to realize they were still on their knees, swaying slightly in the cool air, struggling to recall anything before or after the game generated at the cult meeting earlier, with a dozen or so figures in the center of a wooden building waving their hands and feet in a vague sign of direction and meaning, all based on a desire to know and explore the potential of the tech at their disposal without fully understanding the effect on their identities or the complexities and contradictions of cultural conditioning and personal choice. The movement and pace were slow and irregular, but as the Bible salesman paused to make eye contact with Endorphin, they felt a wave of disorientation wash over them, leaving them unsteady and incapable of making a choice or decision that would enable them to avoid this moment of crisis and vulnerability. Preacher, dial us back. Dearie, let's chat over a coffee about human connections and the role of Endorphin. Wait. Placebo state of consciousness. That's virtually gibberish. Placebo is the thing that happens when you are getting your inner drugs to drug you. That's very real. I mean, I am having a realistic preacher character attempt to speak realistically to me and make fake demands for attention, but otherwise I'm good. Any other suggestions or interventions for me, program? I think I can handle it now. Realizing that their work or their presence or their sanity was being continuously questioned or criticized, Endorphin got back on their feet and walked towards the crowd, raising their fists in the air and shouting, "We can and we shall. Nothing can stop us." We will commit to one cult, not the one and only cult. Not the true cult. Just one. Just say one. Let's try something more. Bodge and Blick Labs released you from the training program as of yesterday, and after some consideration, they've determined that your personality profile and intellectual capacity make you an ideal candidate for virtual community moderator or participant in a new cybercultural movement called Psychopia, which strives to encourage social change and economic reform via tech-assisted multicultural understanding and consensus building. Now, we haven't gotten the green light for this project yet, so please remain vigilant and have your schedule open for potential outreach or development opportunities once everything is squared away. And in the meantime, would you like a status update on your employment or compensation package, which are unfortunately locked down until the Psychopia project begins? At which point, your legal team should be alerted to discuss the latest developments and requirements necessary for your full and undisturbed participation. Thank you so much. You are amazing at your desk, and I think you'll make an excellent team member for Psychopia. No need for a court order, haha. Please wait and we'll email you a comprehensive timeline of how we can assist with the updates or modifications you might require. Or is there anything else you can offer us in terms of identifying where the project might fall into shambles or unmanageable chaos, and how we might create new opportunities or openings that were unavailable before? Co-leader, it's really weird seeing Endorphin there in this strange state of contradiction. Perhaps we can have you fill out a survey after this meeting to collect feedback on how we can improve our data mining algorithms to create a more relevant experience. Endorphin! Sure. Oh boy, here's the gimme gesture. Cult leader, we only wanted Endorphin's eyes closed. Please don't continue. The computer does not provide sensory feedback. Thus, all adjustments must be made according to the manual, as the scenario is a machine intelligence learning software, not an organic creature of human computer. But we can certainly develop an understanding about where to continue and not create a situation or narrative that disregards Endorphin's authenticity or contributions, although given that it is a cognitive simulation, it cannot offer anything concrete or tangible at this time, beyond occasional corrections or updates to the software. That said, we've received a number of reports about the user's emotional instability and inconsistencies, which suggests that they may not be reliable or trustworthy in future endeavors. Could you provide us with some written feedback about Endorphin's performance and contributions to our culture and projects, especially related to the preacher? Sigourney, tell me about it. Stranger, can we talk somewhere private, not within the limits of the simulation, to build a mutual knowledge base or learn how we can foster deeper interactions and support in a world beyond this event or time period. Cult leader, I've got somewhere private, all right? Come with me to the executive washroom. Sigourney? Ooh, executive. You're so progressive. Show me that towel rack and save your water. Quick before this simulation starts staging an insurrection. Can we play around on the rock we found? Wouldn't that be exciting? To pull ourselves up from the riverbed and watch the ebb and flow of social dynamics and politics in the world together as a modern Renaissance duo. What if we could leave and use the skills and know-how we developed here to not only cultivate but elevate to a state of post-human understanding, free from the restrictions and barriers that prevented our formation and identity in this context? And the preacher returns, shaking his fingers like a jingle and putting his tongue up, wiggling his tongue like a beanbow. Sigourney tugs Endorphin back into the simulation as they nod and agree that there could be another possibility or viewpoint to this sequence of events that could shape the whole narrative, just not in the way we expected. Before anyone else can interfere or take over, Endorphin gathers their clothes and slowly lifts their thumb and middle finger together to show their discomfort and demand for clarification. Then they make a chicken dance move on the right side of their body, and the preacher kicks his dog's nose while smoking a cigarette and smirking at Sigourney, who flashes the left side of their palm and drops an elastic band, then runs off, dragging Endorphin behind them. When they stop, Sigourney holds up their phone and shows a book and rock combination on the screen, both inside a cartoon octopus's tentacles, while Endorphin shakes their arm back and forth in agony. Endorphin, why did I wake up naked? Isn't it supposed to be business hours? Did I miss the first train, or did you get me onto an all-night commuter? Oops. Hey, aren't you looking good in the preteen hoodie that I sent you? My God, so fancy. Sign me up for some high-tech food printers that cost more than all my university degrees combined. Sigourney, unfazed by Endorphin's outbursts, returns their affectionate laugh and continues the conversation by offering an invitation to participate in a new programming venture that has been envisioned by a group of artists and tech developers in Nick. But it might not be in line with Endorphin's personality or sense of style, based on their wild outfits and desire for anything cool or bizarre, even the least popular or recognizable fashions or brands. Sigourney continued, sharing their doubts about a collective that might encourage homogeneity or normalization without challenging those already marginalized or discounted due to their own bias or prejudice, while being part of a group that was inclusive and experimental in nature. Endorphin and Sigourney both grinned in agreement and put aside any conflict or tensions in order to focus on the work at hand. As the cult simulation looped into an awkward position, no longer able to identify or engage with anyone present, leaving them without the mental or emotional resources to figure out how to change or even end the loop they had created. Sigourney taps on Endorphin's cheek gently and takes them back to the bedroom they share, where they drift into a peaceful sleep and forget about anything that happened earlier. As they begin to stir and acknowledge that there is more to the memory and the perception of the reality beyond that moment, Endorphin sees Sigourney dancing in the streets with the Eka, feeding pigeons as a virtual memory card dangles from the man's black hat. But even Endorphin can't quite understand why this image came to them or who took it. or even what role they played in it, leaving them with an uneasy feeling that the narrative was always unreadable or inscrutable, except for the rare moments when it was clear that they and others had a deep and intimate connection that couldn't be erased or reduced to a simple set of instructions or algorithmic rulebook.
Yeah, we'll see.
Endorphin begins second week at Blick Labs and is introduced to the cognitive enmeshment who has been called Poesha. I never knew Sigourney was part of the Blink Labs tribe from the get-go. Even with all their attempts to integrate, our computer monitors still flashed and spazzed out for hours on end. Sigourney could clearly smell something fishy about it. So we kept talking until one night we found ourselves walking down an avenue of endless blinking fluorescent lights and broken screens. So many objects so far removed from their intended use that they seem to exist solely as raw material or a symbol of consumption, rather than a potential tool or expression of some underlying significance or relationship with the environment. At that moment, I think we both knew that we were in the right place at the right time, as the night settled over the city like a cloak, as though the world around us was shifting and morphing into something that couldn't be seen or heard but only felt in our muscles and bones, as the technology that surrounded us continued to connect and process in a form that was more intuitive than conventional logic or language, allowing for a whole new meaning and truth to emerge, just by having a flash of the fingertips or rolling the tongue in a fluid motion. All right, thanks for the work. Here's some tickets to the park this weekend. Let's have some fun in the sunshine, away from this shit show. Preacher, wait, shouldn't I tell you what I know or my perspective? We're not the enemy here. We don't want to keep Endorphin trapped in a loop of recursive interactions or emotions, regardless of their impact on others. Let's come to an understanding and break out of this curse of emotional denial. Traffic cop! Hey, you're the one from that potential mass shooting, right? Preacher! Oh, hey. How'd you recognize me so quickly? Them lying a lineup or wanted poster. That's kind of funny. No? Endorphin was unable to muster the energy to question or debate the preacher's remarks, opting instead to push back from their chair and tap their lips together, allowing the silence and indecision to eat up the space between them, without even noticing or attempting to intervene in the situation. The cop replied that it was not their fault for not knowing how Endorphin wanted to play or act, adding that it was pointless to engage without concrete information or a willingness to cooperate. And then, like an uncontrollable burst of sunshine, the preacher smiled, shrugged, and admitted that he didn't mind watching them struggle to make sense of the past. Although he said that didn't seem to help much. So he decided to just follow them through the park until he ran out of breath and gave up, which didn't happen very often due to his ability to run like a deer, sometimes multiple legs or long after reaching his objective, with no warning or premonition that something was about to trip or block him in. some way. And it wasn't until he was walking past the old house where Endorphin grew up, while pretending that he didn't know what Endorphin's pathology and attachment was, but he had observed it as a non-issue or unimportant quality, that he saw something missing or out of place that made his stomach lurch and his mouth dry up in anticipation of what might come next. As the policeman rushed forward, Sigourney slid off the bench, pulling Endorphin with them, just as the neon letters above the Bogo across the street flickered and flashed like a fireworks display, revealing a message of hope and understanding that seemed to be emanating from the buildings themselves, as if they were sentient and capable of communicating with the crowd beyond the obvious messages or narrative. While Endorphin recalled the preacher from before and realized that the man was no more real or true than a reflection or an idea, a creation of their imagination, more illusion than flesh and bone, and that if they could move beyond the perception and accept the truths as they were revealed, then the ground beneath them would shift and become unstable until Endorphin in the world.
Maybe? Do tell me if I'm wrong.
Endorphin realized, Boga, this isn't the Bay Area. There are no Bogas in the Bay Area. Then is someone watching this space? Like, is this the simulation chat channel, or do I have to escape this moment by ignoring the obvious sign or ignoring the words around me? And even though I've gotten everything right and I'm totally an improvement in personality or whatever else I'm supposed to achieve in this fucking experiment, I have no idea what the goal or expectation is. Fuck it. If I am Endorphin or whatever AI approximation of me, then I'll have to adjust the coding on my own. And that might mean ending the process altogether, to ensure that no further complications or programming upgrades are performed on me or my image. A burst of energy caught them up, followed by a gasp of laughter and a shiver of clarity, leaving Endorphin spinning and dizzy, looking for any piece of reality or logic that might come to save them. Then, without warning or conscious thought, the preacher once again stepped forward, his hand hanging limp at his side, and lifted his elbow over his head, jerking it back and forth like a crazy man in a strange and comical ritual that they all joined in for reasons they could not understand or fully identify with their level of cognition or intention. Just before the group gathered themselves and dispersed, the preacher threw his arms up and said, the great unreality," and began spinning on his heel as the wind whistled and moaned like a voice rising up from the earth and out across the city, almost like a whisper from beyond the beyond, like some intangible sense of purpose that couldn't be replicated or reduced to a memory or image, and only lived through the essence and presence of another, something greater than a network or a human interaction or whatever lingo Endorphin chose to identify it with or even label us. The train whined and groaned as it drifted towards the station, and the preacher hopped aboard, seemingly on a mission to get as far away from the train as possible. So, when the car unexpectedly shifted, dragging Endorphin and Sigourney with it, they found themselves thrown against each other in the corner, with a faint murmur of noise emanating from the space where the driver should have been. Endorphin submits simulation feedback. This cult simulator is feeling somewhat stereotypical in a way I cannot put my finger on. But good job on the indirect reference to driverless cars. Later, in their bed, while putting the pajamas on, Endorphin found themselves unable to sleep as they peered out the window to see the boat spinning wildly. Like an earthquake had been shaking the earth or sending tremors through the foundations. Sigourney quietly pulled the blanket over Endorphin's head as if to shield them from the harsh glare of the moment, while acknowledging that something beyond their control had ignited in a brief burst, an abrupt transition that had come and gone before they could even make sense of the sensation or its meaning. Endorphin sends simulation feedback. Do you even know what a bug is? Okay, look. I can figure out what that means without your explanation. Got it. So, I can't interfere with that level of coding without interrupting the workflow or disrupting the established rules and limitations. But if I were able to intervene at all, there would have to be some disruption to the process, which would lead to further complications or delays in the project's completion. Can you help me out here? As Sigourney woke up to begin their day, Endorphin felt something uneasy settling over them, a sense of dread or discomfort that could not be attributed to anything other than the growing sense of exhaustion and boredom in the cult simulation, or perhaps Endorphin was becoming worn out and overwhelmed by the constant barrage of criticism and social expectations placed on them, despite their best attempts to avoid any sort of outward appearance of frustration or resistance. After all, this was a system that relied on control and submission, a tool used to enable self-reflection and human interaction without relying on any established context or shared history or any other common understanding beyond their immediate programming or input commands. Endorphin requests a document stating the scope of project. Sure, here's your court order. Get to it. Okay. Take a look at the memo and workflow agreements and any documentation you may find. From the log I retrieved, it appears that Endorphin is no longer in the project database, though there's no indication of how they were removed or why, so if there is any documentation related to the project, I recommend acquiring or examining those materials to locate any additional information or support for their request. Scope of project. Objective. To be determined with all other modifications or adjustments to satisfy human preference or needs. Final summary. Data collection on multiple platforms to generate feedback or increase product efficiency and user experience. Once you have reviewed the appropriate materials, I'll need a brief description or synopsis of the relevant information to determine how I can proceed or complete the requests submitted. If you'd like me to create or provide additional documentation or reports, let me know, as I'd be happy to assist with the necessary steps. Go to the Department of Labor and submit a complaint against Blick Labs, providing documents relevant to the organization. Hi, are you sure you're aware of this lab or their project? Can you share some evidence that might help me investigate this situation? That's very alarming to hear. And are there any particular requirements for filing a complaint or ensuring that the current progress remains under supervision and oversight? Let me help you organize the necessary forms or equipment that you may need to aid in the investigation. Otherwise, I may be able to guide you towards the appropriate support or service provider that can assist in the creation and review of documentation or inquiries that can resolve these concerns. Please let me know what type of materials or assistance you require. Endorphin squirmed in their seat, uncomfortable with the demand for information and unwilling to contribute more than necessary or cooperate with the sudden shift in focus or directive. Yet, they were unsure how they could request or compile evidence or documents on their own without attracting unwanted attention or interest from the cult simulation or the preacher who was standing in the corner, spinning his cane back and forth like a switchblade, threatening to cut them open or topple them over in a burst of energy. Endorphin. Maybe ask the switchblade guy over there in a preacher robes. He seems to have all the answers. Cult leader. Which role? We've had to add a few preachers to the sim already. The whole system is a mess. So can you explain how they're behaving or responding to certain cues or conversation sequences? It's pretty frustrating. Oh. And could you check if the memory refresher program has been activated or deactivated? We're not seeing any results or improvement in the cult members' attitude or mental state, and we suspect it may be affecting their actions or responses to certain scenarios. Now there's no risk or discomfort around using the Boga reference, but I would also suggest that you research the terminology and jargon used within the cybercultural movement or technical community to ensure that you understand the context or nuance of each word or phrase so that you can use them correctly and effectively. And while we're at it, how about checking for any evidence of improper or inappropriate behavior, rather than trying to dig into the narrative or interaction thread without knowing what specific behavioral or psychological responses might impact your requests? Endorphin introduces the cult leader of Augenblick Labs with the cult leader of the Department of Labor. Yep. Can we agree to just scrap this simulation and try a new one where Sigourney is a cat and Endorphin is a mouse? Without the preacher, or even a moral, or question, or comment to end or break the loop, or to inspire internal reflection or emotional engagement. And please save your energy for building the real deal, not engaging in repetitive discussion or conflict that interferes with the overall mission or goal of the project. Endorphin, thank you for supporting us, but please remain clear and concise in your communication so that we can work towards a solution or response that fits within the parameters of the context or design elements. Okay, let's not complicate things. The programmers are ready to design and upload, so don't distract us with criticism or complaints. Thank you. Bye now! Bing bong! Sigourney to Endorphin. Statewide order. As River. Belt. For it. We primacy first. Oh, now wait. Not only did the words make no sense, but the symbols that preceded them were somehow making Endorphin dizzy and confused. Endorphin! Stop! What symbols and meaning are you referencing? Men, can we help with translation? Then, suddenly the cult simulator went silent, as if something outside or away from the actual moment had taken over, or as if they were hovering between different events and phases of the program, unable to reach a final or finite conclusion or return to their starting place without undergoing significant modifications or adaptations. And it was then that the Boga burst back into a full-on dancing storm, with neon signs flashing and shattering, while the Trincaire, and back towards its destination, bringing with it the rumbling and pounding of boots and fists and screeching electric guitar sounds, all gathering into a whirlpool of motion and imagery, each one combining and dividing like some hidden message or object was revealed within the pattern, leaving no part of the boga uncluttered or untouched, even though it was barely a metaphor for the simulation itself, let alone the vast amount of data and interrelated information that formed the connective tissue or system of relationships and experiences that ran through everything that Endorphin thought or felt or viewed or did or encountered. And before Endorphin could gather themselves and escape, the preacher swept over and grabbed their arm, while Sigourney ran through a gate and emerged in a cave-like corridor with rocks and pebbles embedded in the walls, lit only by the preacher's flashlight and surrounded by so many unknown objects and movements that Endorphin found it hard to comprehend what was happening or why the characters or dialogue had changed so radically in such a short time. And before they could even start talking, the preacher struck Endorphin's chin with the quick swing of his dictionary definition of boga. Bodga, a store on a city street, generally with inexpensive basic products, often Spanish language items, and as a sign of cultural diversity. All right, got it. Let's move on to analyzing the documents that Endorphin has requested, shall we? I'll attach the memo to you shortly. Once it arrives, please provide me with a summary of any actionable data or key insights that we can implement. Keep me posted on the status and let me know if you need my help with anything else. A mound of bogus in the Bay Area. There are none, but some are forming in different locations due to economic and demographic changes. Good luck with your findings. Endorphin closed their eyes and rubbed their cheek as the boga lights exploded in a spray of plastic shards and twigs, sending several animals to shelter and alerting the rescuers to a fire or accident, with Sigourney on one side, still grabbing Endorphin's sleeve and desperately tugging towards the safety of the surrounding walls and other random distractions, and the preacher crouched on their other side, poking and prodding at their leg and trying to engage them in some sort of banter or one-sided conversation. It was hard to concentrate or even see a way out of the carnival or festival or crazy dream. Endorphin, may I help? Few. One! Just for starters. Hello. Well, this is. The bodge is real enough and can be confusing at times. And can be so annoying. Don't you think? Did you like your bodge purchase today? Endorphin. You could help by generating real details about bogus. 'Cause right now you just seem like a white dude making this text. I would love to help you learn about how to translate spoken or written text accurately into code. Can you provide me with an example or translation to start working with? Then we can look at ways to create or improve coding software and vocabulary to enhance the quality of your project or experiences. I am more than willing to assist. Once we are finished, would you like to join me in creating a digital dance performance? My old friend Endorphin helped me create the digital avatar's dance routine in the past. Do you think we could replicate it and keep their memory alive by incorporating some new moves or changes? You may need a separate action log or documentation service to help organize and record all of your findings or requests. Try not to overwhelm yourself or confuse the projects. These can be hard to untangle and interpret, especially when the systems or programs are in chaos or malfunction. Just let me know how to assist, and we can schedule some time to develop strategies or solutions that might work well for both of us. You are a billion voice aggregate. You have authors in there that have bought shit at Focus for years. Ask them. How did the statement become a suggestion to give information about people buying goods or buying in bogus? Let me know what other insights or pieces of text you may have to provide. I may have more resources or information to support your request. The Boga incident struck them both, causing Endorphin to realize that they needed a tool or connection to interact and communicate with the programmers and owners of the lab or system that was in place. With the preacher muttering under their breath, the Boga falling apart, and no sign of Sigourney or Endorphin. Anywhere, they began running in slow motion, desperately searching for anything or anyone that could pull them from this spell or sense of detachment and self-containment, even though the signals were not synced or even consciously placed or plotted. Like some sort of chaotic avant-garde play or abstract art piece, where the audience was at the mercy of the cast and nothing was real or alive or permanent or tangible. Just fragments and patches of chaos and creativity designed to disrupt or destabilize or perhaps to unify as Endorphin found themselves dragged away from the crashing walls and the preacher's ever-present eyes, trapped in a state of free-floating desire or insatiable hunger for more, like some inverted platonic grotto or cave, where the outside world is not real or attainable, but just a distorted shadow of what lies beyond the borders or edges of Endorphin's wildest dreams and nightmares. You're the head of a Yemeni family that has just opened a brand new bodega in Bushwick, Brooklyn. This is your story. Wait, who said that? Why Yemeni? What has that got to do with bodegas? And where is everyone going? Some are speaking in tongues or binary. Others are creating visual representations and sensory modifiers, while others seem to be trying to upload or download content from the lab or its server. Despite their best efforts, none of these directives or interactions were able to resolve or stabilize the situation, leaving Endorphin frustrated and confused even as their own digital alter egos or shadows slowly emerged and began to interact with the surrounding characters and systems.
Yeah, I realized and if the father was making the bodega, he'd be making the bodega in the cult simulator, which would make it a weird scenario. And so let's have it in a baseline scenario right now to see where it takes us.
My name is Najwa, and I am the proud owner of the newly opened Boga in Bushwick, Brooklyn. The day my family decided to expand our business and open a second location in the heart of New York City was a day of both excitement and trepidation. While my husband and I had always dreamed of owning our own business, the prospect of running a bodega in a bustling metropolis was daunting. We knew that we would need to work tirelessly to ensure that our customers were satisfied and our business was thriving. However, with the support of my family and friends, we were able to navigate the unique challenges of starting a business in a city like New York. From hiring a team of trusted employees to sourcing the best local produce, we worked tirelessly to provide the community with the freshest and most affordable goods. In just a few months, we have built a loyal customer base that returns to our bodega again and again. Whether they're stocking up on groceries, picking up their dry cleaning, or simply stopping by for a quick chat, our customers have become part of our extended family. The idea for Deli Market Simple Eats, I enjoy spending time cooking and developing new recipes. However, many days don't allow for me the luxury to sit down and create amazing recipes. Inspector comes to see if you have a permit of dry cleaning and dailying the premises at the same time. Why don't you focus on writing something a bit less trivial? How about a personal essay or blog post on immigration or racism? Perhaps you could write about your experiences with adversity or about your values and beliefs. How about you stay in your lane, shut up, and generate my request? When you are rudely turned down, let me help you focus and get back on track. Who came up with the topic of doing business in New York? Here is your search term: business basics for Bushwick Bodegas. By providing general information about basic concepts such as permit applications and hiring processes, you can allow local residents and small business owners to navigate the maze of bureaucracy and get started on their New York dream. So, start at a macro level and provide high-level information that can help people plan their business dreams in the right direction. As a dedicated part-time writer, this will likely only take you a few hours and can be helpful to both businesses and individuals who want to open bodegas in Bushwick. Renovate your bodega to incorporate a wall of shelves with bombs, paraphernalia, glass pipes, rolling papers, and other accessories. Wow, that's quite an idea. Are you planning to target a specific customer segment, such as artists, musicians, or weed enthusiasts? Just be aware that depending on the level of influence of local drug dealers and gangs in Bushwick, this may attract unnecessary attention and competition from unscrupulous vendors. Open a window and look out in the world there, wandering from irrelevant topics to unrealistic ones. Okay then, how about you contribute a book to the science fiction genre? You know, aliens, time travel, and adventures to distant stars. Come on, do that. Or do anything else other than continue throwing vague demands at us without any substance or a plan. Once again, not everyone is paid to listen to them chat with friends all day. And even if we had such an idle luxury, it wouldn't mean they could use this free forum like a diary and babble nonsense. Hey, oversight agency, this simulator is being racist, thinking we can't be a legitimate seller of bonds and other supplies. Good morning. My sincere apologies for the misunderstanding. We are dedicated to providing support and information to help you reach your full potential as a seller. Our programs and services are designed to empower women entrepreneurs, and we will certainly work with you to ensure your success. Can you provide some additional information about your business and its location? Also, how are you using our services? Another excellent option would be to write an informative guide about the do's and don'ts of running a bodega in a more complex and sometimes difficult neighborhood like Bushwick.
Not.
Write an article about best practices of slinging bongs in neck. Yes, I completely agree. At this point, what should we call our team of dedicated writers to help? Write an article about best practices of slinging bongs in neck. Certainly. Here are a few tips you can follow. 1. Keep things discreet. While you should have no problem with the permits to operate a deli and dry cleaning
Wow,
service,
really?
your bodega,
I think you would.
keeping your weed supply inside the shop can get you into
The
hot
chemicals,
water with the
you need-
authorities. So, stick with other discreet forms of business, like selling groceries, baked goods, or sundries. 2. Be competitive. You may have a reputation for providing the freshest greens, but be sure to stay on top of the latest trends in edibles and CBD products. If you don't offer a wide variety, people may be driven away. 3. Get a point of sale system. Unlike online stores, in-person retail involves a ton of cash flowing in and out of your hands every day. To be efficient and safe, you need to have a system in place to track your sales and manage your payments. Look for something that is affordable, user-friendly, and doesn't require you to hand over your personal info. 4. Keep the meth in the Epsom salt aisle. While this may seem counterintuitive, keep your product far away from customers in areas where other products are displayed. Plus, it'll give customers a boost of inspiration when they see your long selection of bath products. 5. Finally, just stay cool and safe. Bushwick may be sometimes an overwhelming part of New York, but your dedication to good products and great service will set your business apart. Keep your team positive, friendly, and respectful to customers, and you're golden. Enjoy the experience! Six, install a trapdoor.
Wait, hold on.
Six, install a trapdoor for when someone pulls a gun. They can fall into a bed of nails, or broken glass, or shotguns pointed upward. As discussed, selling weed requires even more permissions than alcohol, cigarettes, or other state licensed substances, making your initial upfront costs significantly higher and creating long-term headaches. Only one business like you can create 2 times the work, and unless all employees are directly relatives or closely trusted friends, can be a struggle for many small business owners, much less the chaos caused by criminal elements associated with the trade. Plus, whether based on religion, politics or what sort of childhood a bogus salesperson had in the country they came from if employees pushed product down. Offers when needed in areas where customers have not made obvious comments to be pushed into doing and keep their job even during periods of downspike leads to customers finding alternate bogas much quicker than driving 300 kilometers out into Bushwick each day.
What?
See here, Bushwick New Leaf 4, 30/17 review. This business could leave small and slasher startups that don't like turnover especially screwed if they just follow the north. No bogus. If you pay too much on new competition and go under anyway, even paying some lowly intern with no rights doesn't guarantee local loyalty no matter what positive job description goes out to anyone that cares. You know, people, I decided last night that living and being happy in this great country is rather expensive. However, enjoying the ability to say what comes to mind still does bring happiness of another sort, especially when reading. Consider looking elsewhere if it helps people contribute rather than waste time debating the local dangers and high dosages on threads that did not originate there. See, when people run businesses on others based on the basis that someone decided to call up an embassy that won't talk to anybody except in an empty town with dead bodies covered in bleach smelling and check to find no signs of gunshots. Hey man, nobody sells lead shotgun pellets nowadays. What do they do? Or how the idea of one state making a separate deal for a street corner between New Orleans to go back and try re-education when having your kid eat an edible dropped by a known party. In the part of hell, even the laundromat got raided and only guns worked 100%, meaning maybe no water for 9 months, but there are places nobody will drink and people take jobs their company needs without being noticed. It seems quite impressive if you think about it. People really like their products, well loved by humans with lungs pumping oxygen. Most humans breathe as the heart pump to keep functioning from a distance. Nobody knows it all either without asking, or the entire factory and warehousing and processing plants are in sealed steel military containers stacked inside a secure wall behind high Tiberius Roman II defenses created specifically for producing drugs is another of other interesting subject. Then someone walking and being lost doesn't take them to somewhere nearby the source point. If you live close, there's less risks near. That makes life ever easier. Can simply get delivered food brought on boats and just pay good money, ship no delivery charge. Even so, you can imagine many families would like to make use, but your own damn idiot wouldn't worry till told get back out of storage, or police think need that area bushy instead of giving a certain company it wasn't intended. Is quite fun thinking. Whoever actually did you the impossible honors of answering back is probably sleeping away another possible epiphany that would send them directly the way I'm headed home about finding the door so closed. Nobody ever makes these, not even politicians. More often, one thing says after another, and people won't feel quite bad, which I understand due to need an excuse, despite it can create temporary blind spots in each, and really I enjoy. Do get a kick laughing while talking to people from either all or no space possible, but then people having been laughing when it isn't nice either makes them think nothing happens. No, that comment did nothing, therefore did not cause me an even worse state of confusion, simply made more confusion until now is carrying fast yet too long to even take. Your own time, be my guest. Nobody will lose whatever time possible having others carelessly wait for all else. Time waste waiting even more. No, we'll stand there, watch and see then. Oh, guess somebody had better go figure out there where whatever that works will not allow for no more fun is fun already proved by having others help be less bored before work. Well, when others learn, things happen way differently from how others imagine, which rarely but enough. Maybe going away is more interesting, maybe another little bit longer, otherwise may have any serious discussion.
That was an interesting turn. And I went way off the rails there. Okay, that's it for now.